Hi, and welcome back to Hill and Ponton Social Security Disability Blog. I'm Natalia, Jofre, the Social Security Section Director.
And I'm Shelly Mark. I'm the Senior Social Security Attorney.
So as you know, we're talking about listings. And in our last blog, we did mention that we were going to review the new listing for PTSD cases. Just to reiterate, PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of veterans suffer from PTSD, and also non-veterans,
Right.
because it can be any traumatic event in a person's life that basically then causes other problems
Right.
and precludes them from being able to work as a result of that condition or a combination of conditions. But to get back to the listing, because obviously this is very exciting news, because before we had to basically take other listings and sort of kind of make them apply.
Right.
And now they have their own. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this one?
Sure. And I apologize. I'll be looking at my notes a little bit on this just to give you guys the specifics.
No, we expect you to memorize everything.
But I'm not going to go into every word of the listing or anything. But obviously you have to have a medical diagnosis for PTSD, just like you have to for any other, anything to be a severe impairment. You have to have documentation of exposure to actual death, threatened death, or serious bodily injury.
Mm-hmm.
Subsequent involuntary re-experiencing. This is going to be nightmares, flashbacks, those types of things. Those are going to apply there. And then avoidance of these external events or triggers, so to speak, that bring back these memories. And then an increased arousal or reactivity. Most of us refer to that as hypervigilance.
Mm-hmm.
So basically exposure to traumatic events and then reoccurring the events, avoiding the triggers that cause that reoccurrence, and having an increased reactivity when it occurs, or hypervigilance in just everyday life.
Basically. Like we have a lot of what we call dual clients. So we have both their Social Security disability case and their veterans claim. And a lot of veterans, for example, will tell us that, like, when they're sitting in a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
that their back has to be to the wall. They have to be able to see, like, the entrance and people coming towards them, and that kind of thing. So that can sort of fall along the lines of the hypervigilance, right?
Absolutely. Most definitely. And we have a lot of clients that, even at home that occurs. We have a lot of clients that do perimeter checks at their home.
Mm-hmm.
That still, have to keep their weapons close, that have intrusive thoughts about negative things happening at home, outside of the home. So you can see how this listing is actually tailored to, I don't want to say just combat, because it can be, other instances as well, but it definitely has that. It fits well with combat veterans.
And when you're talking about all of these other issues, a lot of them sound as if though they could be subjective, and I don't want to discredit the significance of them. But for example, nightmares,
Mm-hmm.
right, or flashbacks. That's something that you can't see. That's not tangible. There's a test that you can take that shows this person has nightmares. So I would think that it's important when you're having those experiences that you report them to the doctor so that they can document them for your medical evidence.
Definitely.
Because that's, at the end of the day, what Social Security is going to base their decisions on.
Right. That is so true. You need to really be telling your doctors, because if it's not documented, then basically it didn't happen. So,
Mm-hmm.
You really want to be expressing all of that.
I think that we, just in society as a norm, we get used to just being polite, right? So when you go to the doctor, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine.
Right. Everything's good.
Everything's good, right? So if that were the case, you wouldn't be seeing the doctor regularly. So that's the time to really talk to the doctor about what's really going on. I can't get in my car and drive down the street without having some road rage episode, getting into a confrontation. The other day I wanted to knock a guy out because he took the last loaf of bread. I mean, whatever.
Sure.
But, and also like what we were talking about with the nightmares, you're going to the doctor. Maybe you had a nightmare every night that past week. That's the time to talk about it, is when you go to the doctor, so that they can write that down.
Right. And so once you establish the medical evidence that we talked about, those things, we have to also be able to show that you have limitations in understanding, remembering, and applying information, interacting with others, concentration, pace, persistence, and adapting or managing oneself. So the listing itself can be a two-part test, which is you have the medical documentation and then we show those limitations. Or you can what we say is equal the C section, which just means the other avenue for this listing is to prove that your medical condition is serious and persistent, and that you've been in a very highly structured setting for over 2 years, and that any changes in that highly structured system would marginalize or it would cause disruption in all of your treatment. That's going to be in a situation where somebody's probably been in a lot of inpatient treatment. And like you said, they're doing okay, they're stable. But if they were to have to stress about going to work or for that matter, going to the grocery store, that they may decompose. Everything may come apart underneath them.
Okay. And it's specific to a 2-year time frame?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So basically you haven't been working, you've been home for 2 years. And while you've been home, you're doing okay. But then if you had to put up with stress of going to a job, dealing with a boss, somebody that's telling you what to do, or you're having to meet demands and deadlines, or you have to deal with coworkers, maybe you've been doing okay because you're isolated at home all day and nobody can really bother you. But if you had to go into a job and deal with 20 people in the office, then you might start having some issues.
And that's exactly how it should be applied. And it is 2 years. So it's just basically saying that, it's been a period of 2 years and you've been in the structured environment and you're still at a point to where, any little change could make a huge difference in your ability to maintain. I will tell you that I don't see, because once we go through the listings more for mental health, that part of the listing is also an option in other mental health listings. I don't see that used as much as it could be, honestly. But it is there. So it is something that we can most definitely argue.
Okay. Did we pretty much?
That's it.
Because that was a mouthful. There was a lot of information to absorb from when you read that listing, but that's where you come into play, right? To figure that out, how this gets applied.
That's right.
If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to call our office or visit our website.
Thank you.